Now, the way we communicate with clients, with other people online, the way it all comes through is through conversation. A conversation is a two-way thing. First it goes out and then it comes back in again. And a conversation when it's just stuck in your head isn't a conversation. And it won't get worked out unless the words come out and then come back through the other person that's actually there with the conversation. Hey, Robin. Now, the first time I really understood what it's like to be really responsible in a conversation was when I was, a complaint was made against me through the ACCC. So here in Australia, we have the Consumers Commission. So they look after consumers to make sure that what you're saying you do is what you do, and that if anything like an adverse reaction comes up, that gets looked into so that it won't happen again. And what happened for me was that this client came, and she was, you know, the clients that you get a funny feeling about, and you're like, okay, I will try and help them anyway. So she came in and we had a conversation, and I got that funny feeling, and she filled out all the forms, and on there she had mental illness, some schizophrenia, bipolar, some other things. She was on a multitude of those medications. And through the conversation, she just wanted to clear up her skin. I was like, okay, cool, we can do that. And so through, hey Louise, hey Jeanette, hey everybody who's joining us. So through the conversation that we had, I obtained information through the forms that she filled out. We obtained information, and then we came to a plan moving forward with what she would need. And about 3 weeks later, I got a formal complaint letter. And as soon as I got the formal complaint letter, what was going on inside me was, I'm not good enough, I'm wrong, it's all my fault. And even to the point of, what would it look like if I'm not a practitioner anymore? So the reaction that I had was instantaneous, and it was heart-opening, and it was my head just running away with the whole situation. So now, having the beautiful gift of hindsight, it was 2 very, very in-depth weeks of stress, pouring through the notes that I had taken during our consultation, pouring through what I had actually prescribed her, and it ends up, we did, on her form where she went through and told me what medication she had taken, she had admitted Roaccutane as a medication, and I had supplied her with Saccharomyces boulardii with a vitamin A in it. And that vitamin A, whilst taking Roaccutane, is obviously a red flag, and I would have known that had it have been on the form. And that's what came through the process of actually investigating it, which is why the ACCC exists, to find out where the gaps are so that this doesn't happen again. And neither of us was at fault, and then we ended up concluding it. But in the process, what happened was the act that she had been giving me of not taking other medications, and the reaction that I had to that, and then she had a reaction, and I was acting out. So there was a lot of acting and then acting and then acting and reacting. So if we were coming from a space of openly communicating, it would have been a much easier conversation, and there wouldn't have had to be the reaction. But in that moment, I was reacting from all of these parts of me that had been acting like a fraud, that had been acting like lack was my way of being. I had been acting from wanting to be right. So there's all these emotions that come up when conversations are in a reactive mode. So that was probably the first time and the most intense time that I started to understand what reacting is like and what responding or a responsibility, an ability to respond, and that there is a difference. And the beauty of hindsight is now knowing what the outcome was, that we just had to go through a process to find where where the loopholes were or where the gaps in the process was, that I was then able to respond instead of react. And that reaction feeling comes from a feeling in our chest, in our belly, in our, maybe in your throat. There's a reaction that happens. Another time that it came up for me was the first time I had a complaint on my Facebook page when I was doing the naturopathic side of things fairly intensely at my old practice. We had a complaint from a random, so I've got, yes. So I've spoken about it before that there is a gentleman who has been more of a nuisance in my business over a long time. And we had him being a nuisance on the Facebook page. And again, the same thing came up. There was a moment where he was acting out from a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of probably acts that somebody else had acted out with him in his lifetime when he was younger, when he, may or may not have got attention. He was acting out. And in that moment, I acted out again with I'm not good enough. Maybe I am a fraud. Maybe I am. So all of these programs and acting that I had created when I was younger, when I was a teenager, when I became an adult and somebody told me that, maybe this isn't the way to go. Someone cut me down and said, you can't do that side of things. You have to do it this way. And so there's this acting a certain way to fit a certain box, and then getting in that moment when you realize you're reacting to that. And in actual fact, if we join on a soul level, and if we join on a heart level and we communicate nice and clearly and clean up the conversation rather than the acting and then the reaction, there is an amazing opportunity to respond. And again, I was getting caught up in the actions of it. Okay, I need to say this. I need to be the last person in the conversation to say this. And my hubby we sat down. My husband's a wonderful, wonderful coach and is very level-headed. And we sat down and in that moment I was like, no, we need to call the police. This is ridiculous. Reacting. And he said, okay, so if you just step back for a second, how can this be not only a lesson for you, and not only a lesson for him, but in that moment, how can you own the part of the conversation that might actually be up to you? It's like, okay. And we've done a bit of work in some other programs and things around what's your 50%. And this has come up for me with my kids. This has come up for me with my hubby in conversations. This has come up for me in conversations with clients. This has come up in conversations with people that I work with. What is my 50%? If there's a whole 100% in this conversation that we have, so there's 50% here, 50% here, 50% here, 50% here. If we have a whole conversation of 100%, and this is conversations of people putting random stuff on your Facebook page, the bigger you get, there's going to be a percentage of people that are going to find you and they're going to pester you and annoy you. And it's like a badge of honor. Woohoo! I've made it. Somebody, I have reached enough people that a percentage of them are going to have to say, you're not my person. And that's cool. They can just click through, or they can be a pest and get some attention. In that moment, that's their 50%. But what's your 50% to play in that space? And my 50% on that page when my business nuisance came up, what's my 50%? Actually, the past couple of posts haven't been truly me. So where in that moment was I actually coming from a space of being a bit of a fraud? Where in that moment was I hiding the fact, and this is what spurred it on afterwards, I showed everybody my kids' lunch boxes, and there's things in there that are covered in plastic wrap. And I had an actual vulnerable conversation to get back into alignment without having that fraud stuff building up underneath. And sometimes those things that bubble up underneath are beautifully presented to us through the reaction of somebody else on my Facebook page, the reaction of a client sitting there with a complaint, the reaction of them telling you that those particular herbs don't taste very nice and they'll never take them again. Their reaction can be met with your reaction and nothing will happen. It'll butt heads. Or you can take a moment and instead of reacting to somebody's reaction and having just all this acting happening, if you drop into a space of owning what might be there, and sometimes it's really hard to find, especially when you're in that mode and your throat's a bit funny and your chest's a bit funny and then, how dare they do that to me? Why does he have to show up on my page right now when I'm just about to step out and tell everybody that this amazing thing is happening? Where's the 50%? And so in that moment with the guy that was on my page, I owned that 50%. And my next blog post was specifically about, this is me. Sometimes it appears that I'm a fraud because this is what my kids' lunchboxes look like. Sometimes I don't have the time. Sometimes I don't have the energy. Sometimes, really owning that I have this fraud feeling inside me sometimes, and I can be in that space as well. Therefore, nobody can take that away from me or react to that. I can own it before it even comes up. The other one with the official complaint, the same thing happened. In the middle of it, I was a mess. For 2 days straight, I was crying, wondering if I should give away naturopathy, wondering if I should go back to laboratory work and never have to worry about the public ever again. But then going through the process and hearing some very sound counsel about it, in the letter that I had to respond with, it was specifically stated what to respond, the responsibility that I had, the ability to respond level-headedly and own what I had. I'm owning that our procedure could pertain to not only asking you in this field about the drugs and medication that you have been on, are currently on, and are planning to take ongoingly, but also creating spaces in our standard operating procedures that we double check before we prescribe that are other red flag medications. We specifically ask for red flag medications for each different thing we prescribe. And that became a thing in our standard operating procedure for the way that our practitioners worked. And when I took responsibility for that, the whole thing fell away. Even though there was another 50%, sure. And if I attached to that other 50%, nothing would have changed. I would have just been reacting. And so the big thing that I wanted to invite you guys to, because you are becoming more visible. And when you become more visible, you're not everybody's cup of tea. Thank goodness, because I love tea and I don't want all of the different types of teas. I have 5 or so that I really, really love. And when you aren't somebody's cup of tea and they react, professionally, being able to respond and then bring a different course for the conversation is going to change the way that you can do business. In that moment, the whole thing dissolves when you have an ability to respond rather than show up with your reactions to somebody else's reactions. Does that make sense? Tell me what you're getting out of this conversation to consider. Because these things are going to come up for you. You have an amazing capacity to help people with the knowledge you have in your head, and the ability for you to show up and have a conversation means that at some point somebody's going to come back with the other side of the conversation. And you might not like it sometimes. And the other part of it is, we're in it. Do you have a responsibility? And having a tool like this can save you so much angst and so much pain. And in those moments, I am really lucky because I'm married to somebody who reminds me of these things in these moments, and I get to remind him of these things in the same time. But when I was first starting out and I didn't have that fallback and we didn't have those conversations, I caused myself a lot of angst in those situations. And you guys have the opportunity to help thousands of people, but of those thousands of people, probably about 2% of those people aren't going to be as responsive. They're going to be reactive. And when you react as well, then it's going to cause you a lot more energy drain than it needs to. So, cool. All right, Louise, thank you. I have had one of these clients recently. I'll look at it differently now. Beautiful. Jeanette, it's a pity if someone doesn't agree, they just leave the conversation. Yeah, so they also have their 50%, but it's not up to you to worry about their 50% because you're not responsible for them. You're only responsible for you. And if they don't have the tools to have that responsibility, that's not up to you either. So it doesn't have to be a pity. You can just own your bit. And then whatever happens from there, them doing their thing and all the other stuff, that bit isn't up to you. You don't have any control over the way somebody else is going to react or respond. And they might not just leave the conversation. You might have to take actions like I did to block the person from my page, delete their comment, and put up boundaries around phone numbers in clinic and things like that. That's what we did with the guy that was on my Facebook page. So there's actions as well, but not reactions, not from a space of earnest, from from responsibility. I have a responsibility to my boundaries. I have a responsibility to own my part of it, but I'm not going to own their part of it as well. That's up to them. So yes and no, Jeanette. Okay, Amy, yes, I feel frustrated when I give my 50% to clients and they choose to not change. Yes, this is a gold one when it comes to our clients, right? Here is all of my knowledge. Here's the distillation of possibly 8 years worth of experience and time and accruing information. I've spent $150,000 worth of, my own money on this thing that I am giving you for your version of it with your genetics and your this and your that and your where you are in your life. And then they come back 4 weeks later and they haven't done anything. That bit, that's not up to you. Some people aren't willing to change. Some people aren't ready to hear. My favorite, so I was only talking this weekend about one of my most powerful mentors was actually Rachel Arthur. And she was my clinic supervisor when I was in student clinic. And she was one of the most powerful mentors because she pushed us. And at the time I wasn't too much of a fan, but now I get it. The gold advice that I got from her, that I've heard from other people as well, but it really stood out. It is not up to us to make the seed grow or sprout or do whatever it will do. It is completely up to us. It's our responsibility to plant the seed. Plant the seed, and if we can, influence the environment around it. We can't change the environment around it. We don't have the control over that. Our control is over us and planting the seed. And then have an influence over the environment. We can influence what those people are doing. Our zone of control and our zone of influence. What they can control is when that thing sprouts. If they can control the sprouting and how fast it grows and what it grows into, and we can't do anything about that. If you have planted the seed, you've done your job. It's absolutely not up to us to know when that seed will sprout. So I had a client who first came to me in my first 6 months of practice when I was in somebody else's building. And I explained everything. I went into so much detail, I did so much past history for her. I did everything. And we got her on a detox. 3 days after it, she didn't do anything. And I went into, I felt like I was so invested in the outcome of the, come on, seed, why aren't you sprouting? And then 5 years later, she came back to me and said, I didn't hear from her. She gave up after the 3 days. And then 5 years later, she came back to me and said, all of those things that that we talked about back at that other clinic, and now that you've got this other, now that I'm here in this new space, all of those things, I have had conversations with so many people about those things. The way you describe things, I was then able to teach somebody else. I didn't take it on board for me. I just wasn't ready. But now I want to have a baby. I'm going to do everything you say. There is always a moment that it will sprout, but you might not be present for the sprouting of it. The fact that you dropped the seed in the first place is the most magical thing you could ever do for somebody. But it's absolutely not up to you to be invested in the outcome of what happens to that seed. But sometimes it comes back around and it's just sprouted, and then you're able to influence the environment that seed grows in. So I love that. Amy, then I wonder why they are here. Are they mirroring me? How can I change my approach? Maybe. And it might be just part of their journey. Just like this woman, it might be a part of the journey to be able to go, I'll peek inside the door. Everybody knows about the behavioral change models, and you're in pre-contemplation and then contemplation, and then you get into action mode. You might have learned it at college or uni. And there's the pre-contemplation of, this pamphlet looks nice. I should probably do something about that. I'll talk to everybody else that I'll do some intermittent fasting, blah, 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 blah. Or I'll go vegan, which is what I'm doing at the moment. And then there's contemplation, where you go, actually, yes, this is a really valuable thing. Maybe I should go and see somebody about it. And then there's action. And action's like opening a little creak in the doorway. And you go, oh, should I? Yes. And you walk on through. Or there's action and you go, okay, I'll try those 3 days and then I'll shut the door again. And I'm not ready for that for another 5 years, 10 years, whatever it happens to be. And again, with the mirroring, Amy, beautiful that you brought it up. Where are you doing that? We always have clients that are mirror, in my opinion, and it's not everybody's, and feel free to disagree with me, but I see it as those clients show up doing that because we're doing that somewhere, either in our business, in our family life, with our kids, with our partner, whatever it happens to be. There's something that we were going to take action on and we're not quite ready to do that. We'd rather just sit in our own poo for a little while and, whinge about it and do some other stuff, get sidetracked, do some other thing that we think is way more important, and then take action. So often those people are going to appear when we've got stuff going on as well. Okay, so again, if you, if this conversation is bringing up anything for you, I'd love to hear about it. Tara, I had a Skype consult recently and I knew straight away that I didn't want to work with her. I emailed the treatment plan and didn't hear back. And it turned out she didn't want to work with me either. I felt the feels, but it totally was for the best. Absolutely. And when we are sitting in that reactive mode, we can see the world through this. And if we're sitting in the reactive mode of lack and we're sitting in the action of, well, if she doesn't come back, then what will happen? Oh, if she doesn't come back, no one will come. If she doesn't come back, she'll tell everybody and then no one will come. She doesn't. If we're taking that lens of reaction off, because it meant something to us a long time ago or whatever it happened, then we would go, she doesn't want to come back. She's totally not my person. But there's a lot of people out there who are. So I'm really glad that she might be somebody else's person and I might be able to hand her over, because there's an abundance of practitioners and there's also an abundance of other people who need my help and need my assistance. So the time that I would have spent with her, trying to convince her, coerce her, pretending I knew, she pretends she didn't know, or whatever. All of that time and energy that I would spend on, thank goodness, I can actually give that to somebody who wants to treat that way, who is in alignment with her, and somebody else can come in and I can actually help them and assist them and change their life. So I love that. Cool awareness, Tara. Beautiful. All right. Anyone else have anything coming up around that? So that was part one, all about reaction and responsibility through communication and conversation. And where's your 50%? Where's your 50% has been a mainstay for me in all of our conversations, with my teenage kids, with my husband, when I've been in that reactive mode, I can feel it now. It's like a sign or a symptom. I can feel it coming up. I can feel me ing on the inside. And then if something comes out, if I spit it out, probably takes about 15, 20 minutes of me feeling like that. And then I sit back and go, oh, okay, honey, my 50% in that conversation was I was tired. I have this sense of lack because of this conversation that happened earlier on in the day. I feel challenged because I don't feel supported, blah, 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 blah. And that's what came out. What I really wanted to say was blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, you can use it in so many different ways. And I'm just giving you another tool in your tool belt to see if when you become more visible, there is a chance that you don't have to rewrite history of reaction and reaction. Amy, one last thing. For me, I think I need to trust in my treatments and only own my 50%. The awareness of other stuff, with the awareness of other stuff, I will search for if there is a recurring thing. Beautiful. Yeah. Excellent. No, I won't sidetrack to that. Okay, cool. So that's part one. Part two. Part two is all about something that I experienced over the weekend, and I had an amazing time meeting a whole bunch of clubsters and hubsters. Hey, if you're on the call, very exciting. Hey, if you are in the replay. What I love about meeting up in real life is that you can physically feel the love, like the energy. We're all energetic. Yes, we're all scientific, but we're all energetic beings as well. And you can feel the love in the room. And it feels like, and I've described it before, it feels like being a pack animal. It feels like being in a wolf pack. And everybody is just there. One person's in the room going, oh, and then the whole room goes, oh, in unison. There is beauty in being part of a wolf pack, part of a tribe, when you know somebody has your back. And something you guys might not know about me, I absolutely love fantasy novels that have witches, werewolves, vampires, warlocks, that kind of stuff. I love that stuff, particularly like the teen stuff where there's a little bit of romance. It's my downtime type of stuff that I watch either on Netflix or I have a binge fest over a trilogy probably once every 3 months, because I go so hard, and then I eventually go, oh, okay, I can't do anything. So for a long weekend, I just dive into a whole bunch of yummy fantasy stuff, completely get out of my head, completely just go into an entirely different world. And in that world, oh yes, Amy knows all about me too. So in that binge weekend, maybe some peppermint ice cream might go missing. All right, so the reason that I love that is that there is not only magic in that, and you get to see it, and I get reminded of it in real life when I've been inside that little cocoon. But there is also this camaraderie and this wolf packness, and especially when you're reading about werewolves, that there is an imprinting. There's a description of imprinting that happens on people. And the imprinting that I have in real life to all of you guys in the hub and all my clubsters is beyond. It's amazing the links that happen with the energy and the flow of a group. and how we can all get in sync. And in the club, we talk about it because we have a learning each week that we focus on, and where your attention goes, energy flows. And when your attention as a whole group goes one direction, the energy flows into that as a group, as a collective. And the cool thing that happened on the weekend was the same kind of thing was happening. There was this attention and energy. And what I love about our profession, and that I wanted to remind everybody of, is that we are like a wolf pack. We have the capacity to have our focus be on something so constructive and so collaborative and so creative that our collective can then lift everything up. And what I also love about our profession that I've seen in our group recently is when someone goes, oh, everybody else has the capacity to go, oh, at the same time. I want to remind everybody that we're not in competition, that the collaborations that I saw on the sidelines of the event that we went to on the weekend, Carla's Vitae Mosaic, amazing framework, by the way, if you get a chance to go and see it. But on the sidelines, so people were around the edges who hadn't met before, that were in the same suburb, got to meet, and then they're already, I can't remember your names, peeps, but if you are watching, just pop a little note in there, that they're already planning a workshop together, a workshop series together, and they only got it because they met in person. They didn't know one another existed in the same suburb. And the collaboration, like an environment to create that collaboration, is so incredibly important. And I'm speaking to a lot of people who are outside of our profession recently and describing to them what's happening with our practitioner economy. And it's a new thought and a new idea around, all of us have these very special gifts and talents. We're all alpha wolves. We are all the leaders of our pack, as in our community, or we're the leaders of our families, or we're all leaders in some capacity, or leaders of ourselves and our little puppy dog as well, who's outside whinging that he isn't able to come in. So we're all leaders in some format, some area of our lives. So we have the capacity to do things as a lone wolf. But the second we all meet up together, this wonderful pack mentality happens, and all of our strengths and gifts and talents roll back into our profession. And all of the things that you guys have experienced in the past, if you used to be in finance, if you used to be a bookkeeper, if you used to have a creative role, if you used to be in retail or hospitality, some of these things are incredibly valuable to come back into our profession, because engaging people outside our profession who have all those gifts and talents, they don't have a way of speaking our oohing. They don't have a way of speaking our language. Us as healers have a way of speaking and a way of showing up to help and care for people that is very different. And to try and talk to a VA, or to try and talk to a website developer, or to try and talk to somebody who does, window settings or visual retail design, that kind of stuff, that hasn't had an experience in the healing professions, it's like you're speaking a different language. It's like a whole bunch of wolves are talking to a whole bunch of vampires, and they don't quite get it. And what I love in our profession right now is that this amazing environment is happening, and I'm lucky to be part of that environment. And it's wonderful to see people like Carla and Geraldine and others creating this environment where you are co-collaborating to build this this profession, that even if you're not seeing clients one-on-one, you still have gifts and talents that can come back in and feed the profession. And the profession can feed your dreams and your gifts and your talents and your families. So I am loving the Wolfpack mentality. And as an actionable step for anybody who's watched this part of the webinar, I would love if, when you see somebody's business stuff come up on Facebook, on social media, if you see them, if you're friends with them in your personal lives, whatever it happens to be, give them a little like. It only takes a second. Give them a little love heart in the comments section. That wolf pack mentality lifts everybody up. Some of the best teleconferences I've ever seen are because these people met in real life at a conference before and then decided to collaborate and create either a teleconference, or they decided to collaborate and create one of those books that have multiple people in them, a co-authored a book. There's so many ways that you can support, and the rule of reciprocity shows that, and what we've talked about in the hub recently is around paying it forward, is that if you can just lend support, if you can just lend a like, if you can just lend a love heart, if you can just lend a kind word, everybody benefits from it. The second that you like somebody's workshop, even though you might have a little, green-eyed monster in there because they're showing you something that you could do yourself, even in that moment, if you like it, that allows the whole of the world to understand that naturopathic healthcare and the knowledge that's available in this workshop is valuable, and you value it. And therefore, when you present a very similar thing, there's going to be that rule of reciprocity, and there's going to be more people interested in it as well. So that is my spiel about being in the wolf pack. And if you are a member of a wolf pack, when someone howls, howl back, because that collaboration brings us all up. When someone puts their hand up and offers to help in a certain way, and that resonates with you, stand in there and cheer them on. We all have the capacity to do that, because at some point you're going to be the alpha, and you are going to want somebody to cheer you on. If someone at the moment is being the alpha, you need to cheer them on too. So Alexis, I love collaboration, she says. Louise, I feel so lonely here as other pracks are so scared you will take their clients. They don't want to associate with me. Who else has that? Who else has in their area that sense that you're all in competition, and that if you do something, that's the way? Anybody? Chuck me a like if this is the case for you in your environment. No? Everyone's up for collaboration. It's all good everywhere. Okay, cool. Well, in the environment that we're in our environment, traditionally there has been a similar kind of thing. We go to the now the lights. Sorry, I got a 10-second delay. We go to the seminars, the trade seminars for our suppliers, and there is a notion of there's a couple of people that you get along with, but the rest, there's that keeping things close to your chest type of thing. And to be honest, that's an old school way of doing it. And that old model has worked for a really long time when business, corporation, all of that stuff has been building. And we're working under a new model. All this information is available everywhere on the internet and elsewhere. And if all that information is readily available already, there's an abundance of information, abundance of clients wanting the information, abundance of money running around the world. There's more money in the world than there ever has been. There's more sick people in the world than there ever has been. There's more information available in the world than there ever has been. In those moments, there are more practitioners, thankfully, to serve. And to be able to do that collaboratively, that person over there can actually serve this particular client of mine way better than I can. Therefore, they've probably got clients that I can serve much better than they can. It is an incredible thing. So, yes, there has, from my observation, there has in the past been a lot of competition. And now let's use part one's little suggestion in this conversation. Where is your 50%? Louise and myself, where is our 50%? What can we own in this conversation about competition? They, if we point the finger, they, in a reactive mode, they are all in competition. They don't want to meet me. They, in that moment, that reactive mode, what's going to happen? I want to meet you. Yes, I do. So the 50% that I can be responsible for, let me just check. In those conversations, the 50% that I can feel responsible for is that when I'm doing that, what's going on inside of me is actually I am in competition with them. In that moment, I have the belief I'm in competition with them. And so even though I'm pointing it out in them that they feel I'm running the competition vibe for sure. I'm running the competition vibe. I'm running the tall poppy vibe. I'm running the I am right vibe. I'm running I could help them better vibe. So there's a whole bunch of stuff bubbling under the surface when I'm going, it's them, they are in competition with me. And if I can identify that and get that through in a conversation, maybe with them, then what comes up underneath that is, okay, so if that's not a thing, if I'm not actually in competition with you, even though, maybe we could collaborate. Maybe I could send you all my fertility clients because I don't dig on fertility as much as you do. Maybe I could send you all my skin stuff because I'm not into skin. And then the conversation opens up for that person to then go, whatever happens. If you're not attached to the outcome, something will come up, so whatever it is. But often it'll lead to the point of, oh, well, I don't want to treat this particular condition as well. There's an opportunity that comes up on the other side of that. So, yeah, nice identifying, Louise. And it's a common one. You're not alone. I have totally felt that lots of times, particularly in those environments where everybody's there. I totally get that. Amy says it's common in her area as well. I'd really like to find some who are open to collaboration. Yeah, and that's the beauty of being in the hub and the club. We're cultivating that. And to have that wolf pack kind of mentality means that that's just a given. We can collaborate because we're all in a pack. And we have the opportunity to stand up for each other and have one another's backs. Charlene, it's all about abundance. Clients for everybody. And Louise, looks like I'll be doing the same as in the club. Beautiful. Yes, we've got some other little tools and tips that we bring up in the club. Louise is an incredible member of the club. And we've got some other things that we use to shift blocks when they come up. So, yes. Okay, Amy. Or more so refer on, yes. So they can become referral partners or collaborators or, they don't have to be competition. And yes, totally, 50% of it is them perceiving us as competition. I get that. But the other 50% is something coming on with us as well. Yeah, cool. Christine says, in the west of Melbourne, we have set up a meetup group for naturopaths and we meet once a month. Lots of referrals, herbal sharing and going on, loving that support. I love that too. And this is what I was bringing to your attention. So because we have that, I get to have that in the hub and the club. And when we meet up in real life, it is like this juicy, yummy, oh my goodness, everyone's on the same wavelength kind of. You can feel the whole room kind of go like this. And so I'm super excited to be bringing the Naturepreneur Revolution series all around Australia so we can get to have this in real life with everybody. And just like Christine mentioned, they do it in the west of Melbourne. I want to do it in, where are we? The centre of Melbourne. we're going to the Pullman, which is super exciting because it's a beautiful, really abundant space. It's really vibrant. This is going to be really epic food. And same over at Cottesloe over in Perth. I've tried to pick places that are like yummy, central, really good food. And the sun setting over the ocean in Cottesloe. I'm off my head excited about that. And we're first starting with these first 4 places because they are the ones that have a big enough amount of people to come to see them, so that I can, you know, it's got to be a business thing as well. I've got to just be able to justify, okay, if we're going to have all this yumminess, we've got to have enough people to you know, warrant the yumminess. So we've got these 4 spaces. This is the next step is we want to come to some of these other regional areas and some of these other places that want this wolf pack kind of scenario, that want to be around people that are collaborative, referrals, are supportive, are having one another's back, so that our profession can have a paradigm shift from competition and coercion and all the other stuff that goes with it into collaboration and this entire being part of something that brings about a paradigm shift in our profession. So Alexis, we've had 3 people interested in Sydney and no more than that. So if we can hear, you know, 10 times that, we'll be coming to Sydney. But at the moment, Sydney is on the back burner. We've had a few more for regional areas of Queensland. So it's looking up, people, but we don't know whereabouts. I'm going to put a poll on the hub. If you're not on the hub yet, come and join us. And we're going to ask you guys where we should go and where we should have this yummy juiciness and connect in real life and really feel a part of the thing that you came to be part of. You know, you are healers and we are all in this together, and we are all here to help people and to be able to help as many people as I would love us to have the revolution of helping in the world. I think we need to do it together. So I am inviting you, if you haven't already, come to the Revolution series if it is in a place nice and close to you. We've got people that are already traveling 3 and 4 hours to get to these big ones that we're having. And super exciting, amazing time, lots of hugs, lots of tea, and very, very yummy food. And we're going to be kicking those off on the 1st of June. And I can't wait to meet you all in person. The link will be somewhere around here. Otherwise, I'll pop it next to the video. And please, please, please join in. And I can't wait to see you. All right. That is a conversation to consider today. Please, if it comes up for you, utilize that tool of this is my 50%. And if it comes up for you that a fellow pracky is going through the motions of having courage to be an alpha, having the courage to step out and go, oh, here's my thing, here's my opt-in, here's my other thing, here's my next workshop, here's my epic, whatever it is, that courage, that leadership that it takes to do that, please give it a like, please give it a share, please give it a little comment. And it actually builds the entire profession when you do that, including yours, when you have your moment, when you go through the courage and go through the process of being in that creative zone and being able to shift and change your community, somebody can give you that same like. So I love you guys very, very much. Thank you very, very much for listening today. And I'll catch you next week for Training Thursday. All right, see you later. Bye.